We listen and we don't judge. I basically almost shit my pants in front of Matt Rife when Lori and I were in New York. Yeah, some of my top wellness practices that are pretty realistic. Hot girls scrape their tongues. Point blank, period. That's all I have to say. I kind of want to become a Pilates girly. Catch me on a reformer machine somewhere near you. I just really love the taste of an Element raspberry salt electrolyte. Oh my God, chef's kiss. It's in my water bottle right now. Oh, fuck. That is so good, you guys. I need a code. Element. Sponsor the podcast. What are you doing? I'm literally your number one fan. You know, at the end of the day, I think like the healthiest people that live the longest and have the happiest existences have... What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you 11 of my top realistic wellness practices. And these things are not going to involve meditation, a super long morning routine, or any crazy like biohacking things. We're just really going to get into the nitty gritty. If you are a nosy biatch like me and you just want to know what I'm up to, what I do behind the scenes, and what I really love and what's been working, then that's what I'm going to share with you today. So in the name of transparency, I don't really have a morning routine. I have things that I do routinely in the morning, but I don't have a set rigid practice of every morning I have to do this, then this, then this. I'm not that kind of person. I'm a lot more flexible. I'm a lot more flowy. It depends on what day of the week it is. It depends on what my partner's schedule is, because we trade on and off sort of with who's walking the dog in the morning versus in the afternoon. I might decide that I want to work out in the morning, or I might work out later in the day. So I just kind of like change my schedule depending on the day and work and how I'm feeling. So I don't always do the exact same things in the morning. And I don't know, I used to try to like fit into a box of having these rigid morning routines, but it never really worked for me. So I just kind of let that go. And honestly, it's worked better for me. So if you are a person that has a really rigid morning routine and that works for you, like good for you. But also I think there's a lot of this rhetoric around, in order to be super successful, you need to wake up early, you need to meditate, you need to work out, you need to do X, Y, and Z, all these things in the morning before you start your day. You need a cold plunge, you need to do red light therapy, you need to do all these things. And I don't do any of those things. I don't do any of those things, and it's been working well for me so far, and I feel great most days. And yeah, obviously when I start my days with intentionality, I feel much better. I love when I can get movement into my day and when I can get a workout in, but it doesn't always happen first thing in the morning. And I think the biggest thing, honestly, if I'm being really honest with myself and with you guys about what makes a huge difference in the trajectory of my day, in my productivity, in my mood, in everything, is whether I get on my phone in the morning or not. The mornings when I am not glued to my phone or immediately getting sucked into even just like podcasts, because sometimes I want to move through my morning with a little bit of a quicker pace so that I can get to all the things on my to-do list and feel really productive for the day. But if I start listening to a podcast or watching a YouTube video or something in the morning and I'm like pulled into it and there's like 20 minutes left, but I'm done getting ready, I'm done doing my makeup, I'm done making breakfast for myself, I might be like, okay, but like I want to listen to the rest of this 20 minutes. I'm bad at like stopping things in the middle. I just have to like complete them, which I don't know. I think that happens to me in the way that I perform tasks as well. Like if I'm doing something and I'm in the zone and I get into one of those, like some people will call it like hyperfixations, but like where you're actually flowing and I can't stop. Like I can't be like, oh, it's lunchtime. Okay, leave this here. Let me go eat lunch and then I'll come back and resume. Incapable. I cannot do that. It's really hard for me to like move my attention from here to there and back and then be focused again. So that's something that I deal with, and I kind of have to set up my life and my schedule and the structure of how I do things around that, because I know that it's something that just doesn't work for me. So in that same vein, like waking up in the morning and immediately getting sucked into a really juicy podcast episode or a video of some kind or anything like that, any type of content, is like, that's going to mess me up, because now I'm not going to be able to really just move on to the next thing and start doing the tasks that I wanted to do so that my day begins at the time that I want it to begin, and that I'm not already off track for my tasks for the day. Because I will block out time in my calendar for what I expect to be working on that day. My calendar is my to-do list. I've shared this with you guys before, but basically I use my Google Calendar as my to-do list. So at the top of the morning, whether it's like 9:30 or 10 a.m. is probably the earliest I ever start work. Around that time, I'll have a first initial time block of what I would like to be dedicating that time to. What is the first thing on my to-do list for the day? And it'll show me how much time I think that I'm going to need to complete that task, whether it's 30 minutes or an hour or 90 minutes. But I have that first to do on my calendar for the day. And if I'm on my phone, if I get sucked into social media, if I immediately start answering team messages in the morning, if I go into Telegram and start trying to reply to my clients and coach them in there, I'm thrown off. And that means inevitably my first time block task of the day is going to get pushed. And then I'm going to feel like I'm not starting on the right foot, or I'm already behind, or I have to move everything down that day in the calendar and work it around calls and meetings that I have. And it just starts the day off with an energy of chaos and disorganization. And it's just not a good feeling. And I know that that happens pretty much every time I get sucked into my phone in the morning. So probably the biggest indicator, more than a morning routine for me, of whether I'm going to have a good day or not is if I can stay off my phone. If I can stay off of my phone, then I'm going to have a much better day to start. So all that to say, I don't really have a morning routine. I don't meditate every single day. I'll do it sporadically. I don't walk 10,000 steps every day. I wish that I did. I'm trying. I'd like to be better. I think that's a goal of mine. It was something that I wanted to do last year. I failed miserably, so we're going to try again this year. I'm just like not obsessed with tracking the steps. I also think it's sort of unhealthy to be really, really super obsessed with it. So when I set that goal for myself, it's more like a range. I'd love for me to look back on the last couple of months, or at the end of the year, look back and see that my average daily step, or the average for like a month or something, was, around 8 to 10,000 steps. I feel like that's good. I'm not going to be the person that's like, oh my God, I need 500 more steps. I can't go to sleep tonight because I haven't hit it. And then I'm like pacing around my room. Like it's not going to be me. It just couldn't be me. So I can't engage in that sort of like obsessive, crazy behavior. It reminds me of like disordered eating thoughts and things that used to come up for me in college when I was feeling like I was overweight, and like tracking all of my food and like putting an entire bottle of wine into my fitness pal to track the calories. Like, girl, what is the fucking point of that, right? So you won't find me pacing around my bedroom trying to like hit the 10K before I allow myself to go to sleep. I do have an Oura ring, and I love it. But I also, to be totally honest with you, like I check my stats on it like probably once every 3 weeks. Like when I first got it, I would check it every day because it was so fun to, see my stress levels and see my sleep score and see my heart rate variability and see my steps and activity and all these things. But honestly, I just like wear it out of habit and kind of like forget to open the app on my phone on a daily basis to like check what I'm doing. Because again, I'm not obsessed. And I think that's a good thing to not have this like obsessive behavior around it. But that being said, it's harder for me to realize that I'm off track with step goals and things like that if I'm not more routinely checking what's actually happening on my Oura ring. So I am going to try to be better about that this year so that I can get closer to that goal of hitting roughly 8 to 10,000 steps a day. So anyway, all of that just to intro today's topic, which is, some of my top wellness practices that are pretty realistic. They're not super unattainable. They're not crazy biohacks. So yeah, if you are down for the ride, it's not going to be anything super groundbreaking. I'm going to share some of my favorite products, things that I'm doing, things that help me kind of have good energy, be productive, stay fit, all the above. That's what we're going to be chatting about. So first up, number one is sleeping 8 to 9 hours. This is when I'm going to feel my best. If I am not sleeping well, or I'm not sleeping at least 8 hours, I feel very tired, much more low energy, much less likely to work out or be active in the day. That's just kind of my sweet spot of where I need to be in order to be feeling good. I would say 9 hours is probably my optimum, but I'm most often getting around like 8. Yeah, I would say my average is probably like 8 hours, but I really love the days when I get 9 hours. And the biggest challenge for me has been going to bed at the right time. Like when I actually succeed and I hit my goal bedtime, I feel fucking amazing the next day. Like if I can be in bed by 10 o'clock even, which isn't even that early. Like I know that probably seems so late for some people, but if I can be in bed by 10 o'clock, that means I'll likely be asleep by 10:15. I fall asleep really fast. I'd probably be asleep by like 10:15, 10:30 at the latest. Then I can sleep until 7 a.m. and feel fucking incredible. But the problem is I don't always get to bed by 10 o'clock. Like there are a lot of times where I'm not getting into bed until 11. Sometimes if it's been like a really long day or just like catching up on a lot of things and just really not having a lot of time in the evening, and then I still have to, cook dinner, clean up, we have to take the dog outside, all these things. Sometimes I'll get in bed at like midnight. And those are the days the next day where I'm like, oof. And it's not the right vibe. So my goal is to go to bed earlier, which I'm still working on, work in progress, not mastered at all, and to sleep 8 to 9 hours. Now, my Oura Ring tells me that my chronotype, it'll tell you your kind of like best hours, your ideal time to go to sleep and wake up. And mine tells me that I'm best to go to bed at 11, 11:30 and wake up around like 7:30, which I have to disagree. I think that that's not enough sleep for me. And I personally I can see how naturally, like, I'm not really usually ready to go to bed until 11 and then fall asleep around 11:30. So I could see how that's my chronotype. But like, I don't want to be that way. Like my conscious mind is like, no, but we want to go to bed by 10. I want to force myself to fit into a different, I'm like, I cancel this chronotype. Like I want to put myself in a different box, please. I do not like this category because I know that I do actually feel better when I go to bed earlier. So anyways, that's kind of an interesting function of the Oura Ring, but also you can take an online quiz to discover your chronotype. I've included it in some of my courses for my clients before because it can be really helpful actually to understand, your optimum time of day to do a lot of things more than just sleep. When you do the actual like quiz online, you can figure out so many other optimal times for you, like when it's best for you to work out, when it's best for you to have sex, when it's best for you to do creative work or like mentally kind of tasking, intense work. All those sort of things can be determined by your chronotype, which is really interesting. So anyway, first thing, 8 to 9 hours of sleep. The second wellness practice is non-stimulation walks. Now, I've talked about these here and there. It's something that I tell my clients to do. It's something that we do specifically inside of Top Tier Mastermind because it is so, so important for opening your channel and getting the creative juices flowing and having intentional time for you to just be in conversation with yourself and to be with your thoughts and your ideas. So often we feel like creatively blocked when it comes to what you want to post or content or writing emails or anything else that you might be doing in your business or maybe even just in your life. You're like not feeling super inspired or super creative. And a lot of the times that has to do with the fact that we are plugging our ears quite literally with headphones all the fucking time with everyone else's voices. We're listening to podcasts, audiobooks, trainings, YouTubes, all these things, and we're not actually listening to ourselves. Like nowadays, people are consuming content or being entertained in some way, whether it's listening to something or watching something while they shower, while they cook, while they clean, while they walk, while they drive, while they eat, while they literally do everything. And so if you can carve out one walk per day that is no stimulation, no phone whatsoever, you're not talking to anyone, you're not on the phone, you're not texting, you're not replying to messages, you're not voice noting clients, you're not doing anything, you're literally just walking and being in communion with yourself, your spirit, your thoughts. And you don't have to set this goal of like, oh, I'm going to bliss out and have no thoughts and like erase everything from my mind and it's just going to be a totally meditative process. It doesn't even have to be like that. It's like just walk in silence and you will start to realize that you have thoughts that you haven't heard yourself think in a while, and you're coming up with ideas and you're having conversations with yourself about things that are happening in your life or things that you want to do in the future or a project that you might be working on, and suddenly you're like, oh, that's a really great idea. And like stuff is flowing because your channel is open. It's interesting when the way that we use headphones in our culture, usually if you see someone out in public or at the gym and they're wearing headphones, you know that they don't really want to be talked to, right? you're not going to go up to someone who's wearing headphones and try to strike up a conversation, because obviously they are in their zone. They are wanting to be by themselves, like doing their own thing, listening to whatever they're listening to. And so that is sort of the message that we send to the universe when we constantly have headphones in, or we're like just consuming content all the time. We're listening to everything else, is like, oops, sorry, universe, like I'm busy right now. Don't want to hear what you have for me. I'm not open to the divine wisdom or the downloads or whatever you're trying to send me. Because like, can't you see? Hello, fucking busy. Don't talk to me. That's the message that we're sending when we're constantly consuming content and entertainment at all times. It's like we've, as a society, almost like all gotten these super shortened attention spans, and now we just need to be stimulated all the time, and we need this content at every turn to keep us company so that we don't feel alone. And I feel this myself, like I'm not perfect with this, which is why the non-stimulation walks have been helpful for me. Because I do feel that sense of like, oh, if I'm going to go clean my bathroom, or if I'm going to go do my makeup, I might as well be habit stacking that. I might as well be listening to something. I might as well be watching a video from some of my favorite creators. I might as well, catch up on one of my shows that like keeps me company and makes me feel like I'm not alone. And, it kind of makes you feel like the time is passing more easily, but it's bad. Like we're doing it way too much. So the non-stimulation walks, you're going to hate it at first, and then you're going to love it. By the end of your walk, you're going to be like, I actually feel so refreshed, and I feel more comfortable just being by myself and with my own thoughts, which is really, really important. So the third wellness practice is a little bit nuanced because it's not something that you can just automatically easily implement if it's not natural for you. But I think it's important to mention because it is one of the things that makes me feel my healthiest and helps me know that I'm actually a healthy individual. And that is having food freedom. That allows me to eat mindfully, but not track anything, to not be obsessed with what foods I'm eating or not eating, to not be food mongering and making certain foods bad or good in my mind, feeling guilty for eating sweets or eating something that has a seed oil in it or that might be slightly toxic. Like I don't do any of that. I really have a very like neutral, healthy relationship with food, which is not something that's always been the case for me, but I'm so grateful for now at this point in my life. And I really do think that it's the healthiest way to be. Obviously, it would be great for our food system to not be so toxic so that we didn't have to stress and worry about what we're putting into our bodies at every single turn. Especially in the US, we definitely need to make a change in our food supply in terms of having healthier ingredients and not allowing all the toxic shit that they allow into our products. But I also don't think it's healthy to be scared of everything and to be reading the label on absolutely everything that you consume and to feel like you're going to get cancer because you ate something with canola oil in it or whatever it is. Like, I do think that people sometimes take it too far to the point where it's now detrimental to your health because of how much you're stressing yourself out over the factors of ingredients and things that might be inside of your food or how it was processed or whatever. At the end of the day, I think like the healthiest people that live the longest and have the happiest existences have the least amount of stress. We know that stress is such a factor in creating so many different diseases, chronic illnesses, cancer, all of these things. So if you can live a more stress-free lifestyle, which we don't always have control over all the stress factors, but if you don't have any stress around food in your life, it will significantly reduce the amount of overall stress that you have on your plate, because there's going to be certain things that come up, challenges, problems, work, money, like so many things that can contribute to these stress factors. But I think for me, not having any sort of stress at all around food is something that really, really helps me lower my overall cortisol and like stress levels. And I do believe that that is a hack for longevity, is not being the person that eats the absolute cleanest ingredients and never has anything toxic or never eats a processed food. Of course, if you eat all whole foods, you're going to be very healthy. But if you're doing that from the mindset of like, you're scared to eat a Pop-Tart or to eat a Dorito or to have a Coca-Cola or something like that, then like you're not the healthiest version of yourself, right? So I think stress sometimes and the way that we think a food is going to impact us has more of an impact in the end than the actual food itself. And that's something that I learned on my own journey with like healing my relationship with food, was that thinking about what the foods were going to do to me, or like how they were going to make me fat, or how they had too many calories, or whatever the fuck it was, thinking too much about that was actually making me fatter. It was actually making me hold on to more weight because I was in a constant stress response. When your body is constantly in fight or flight, you will not burn fat. Point blank, period. You will not burn fat if you are constantly in a state of stress. So I think that's, an underrated thing that people should really be prioritizing in their lives, is cleaning up their relationship with food and allowing yourself to, yes, eat healthy most of the time, but also like, who gives a shit if you eat McDonald's now and then? I love myself a McFlurry, some French fries. Like, I am not scared. I am not scared. And I think that that is so liberating. Now, the fourth thing is the fact that I stopped drinking alcohol. I don't really drink alcohol basically ever anymore. I'm not an entirely sober person. I don't identify with the sober identity of never drinking again. I don't have that expectation for myself. Also because, first of all, some people need that. If you have a real problem with alcohol, or you've struggled with alcoholism, or you know that it runs in your family, maybe that's something that is really supportive for you and helpful to like hold the identity of being alcohol free or being a sober person. For me, I didn't need that, and it feels actually healthier to not have, again, some rigid sort of identity around I can never drink again. I'm never going to drink again. The reality of the situation is I really only end up drinking on special occasions, or if we go out to a really nice dinner and it just kind of feels like the vibe to get a glass of wine, I might have one. If we go to a wedding or a concert or something like that, I'll probably have a few drinks, but like the last wedding that we went to, I think I had 2 drinks. So I don't really drink at all anymore. We never have alcohol in our house. We never drink with meals. When Jaime and I go out to restaurants, we mostly just order water. Like, it's very rare if we order any sort of alcohol. I don't love cocktails. I don't like beer. I don't like red wine. So for me, it wasn't even like, oh, I really need to reevaluate my relationship with alcohol. It was really just like, I've never really liked alcohol, to be honest. I've never really liked the taste. It's always felt like such a thing for me to have to like choke down, like a means to an end to get drunk and have a good time. And listen, sometimes it feels fucking fun and liberating to go out on a dance floor with your girlfriends, throw back a few drinks, do a little boogie. Like, it's a vibe. I had some drinks on my birthday. It was fun. But those are special occasions. And just in my day-to-day life, I don't really drink alcohol, and I don't feel or see the need to. And I don't remember exactly when this started. I feel like it just kind of happened naturally. I know that I really stopped drinking alcohol while I was living in Spain. So probably after my first year in Spain, because my first year in Spain, I was still living with 9 roommates in a shared flat from all over the world. And in order to kind of like make friends and be social, I would go out with them sometimes, and we would get drunk. But I think the next year after that was the year that I moved into an apartment with Jaime, and him and I were just living together. And I think the drinking kind of slowed down then, because there was less constantly being surrounded and living with like friends all the time who wanted to go out and drink. And then from there, it just like tapered off to a point where like we literally don't drink anymore. And he's the same as me, and it was never a conversation that we had. We never said to each other, oh, do we want to do this together? Should we do this? It literally just happened because we're both the same way, in the sense that like we don't really like drinking. We don't like drinking unless we're going to a festival or a concert or a wedding, and it's like, yeah, I want to be a little drunk for that event and it'll be fun. But that's literally it. So I think the benefits for me, I wish that I would have been able to take more stock of how it was impacting my life, because I did go from being a person who was partying a lot and binge drinking all the time. Like, I went to a big sports school when I went to Ohio State University. I was in a sorority. We were going to fraternity parties. When I was at school, our football team had a 24-0 winning streak. We won a national championship. Like, it was a big fucking party school, and there was a lot to celebrate and a lot of ways to have fun and get in trouble. And I was doing it, and I don't regret that at all. But I definitely had that personality, just to kind of show you that I haven't always been a person who's like not interested in drinking. When I really look back, I never really enjoyed the taste or the flavor or the process. It was just like, in the end, being drunk was a fun experience, but I didn't like alcohol. Like I don't think I've ever had a cocktail in my life that I've been like, yummy, like I want more of that. I think the closest thing is probably like an espresso martini, which half the time they're absolute shit. They have to be made the right way. But there's a place here in Fort Lauderdale that makes really amazing espresso martinis. And so I've had that a couple of times and enjoyed it, but I would never get a second one. Like it's too much. Like I don't need it. I don't know. I feel like we're rambling here about the alcohol concept, but I know this is something that a lot of people are curious about and are kind of dipping their toes in. There's a lot more sober, curious people. There's a lot of people that have already given up alcohol completely as well. But there's also people that haven't taken that step yet. And maybe this conversation is inspiring you to maybe test out what life might be like without drinking at all, or with maybe just drinking less, right? So I didn't really take stock of evaluating all the things that were changing in my life when alcohol started to drop off as a habit for me. I wish that I had, but I have to assume that, I sleep better because I don't drink. I have to assume that I have more energy because I don't drink. I have to assume that I'm able to maintain a leaner physique because I don't drink. There's just so many benefits to it. I also think about my liver a lot. And when I went into my holistic healing journey of really wanting to work on my gut health and heal my skin and clear everything up, when I was working with a holistic practitioner on this, we talked a lot about like supporting the liver and how the liver can get really sluggish and tired from the overload of toxins that it's having to process. And this happens from so many things. Obviously environmental toxins, but also the toxins in, heavy metals and all the nasty ingredients that are in our water and in our food and all these things, and pollution, but also from things like antibiotics or birth control or like Accutane or any of these things. I've done all of those things. I've taken all of those medications. And so over time, your liver gets really sluggish and it can't process or do the detoxification process as quickly as is optimal for your body. And so that can result in certain things like the PMS symptoms that I was having, or getting really bad headaches around my period because the estrogen wasn't being processed by my liver, and all these other things. Again, not an expert on this. That's not like my area of expertise. That's not my zone of genius. But just from personal experience, I remember learning these things about how much my liver needed support because of the decade of birth control that I was on and doing Accutane and like all these other things. And so if I were to think about adding alcohol on top of that, like it's just not helping me to have hormonal balance or to have an ideal cycle or to have clear skin or any of these things. So I do think that there's a lot of benefits to not drinking. The fifth thing is weightlifting. And you guys will know that I've worked out for many years in my life, but weightlifting was and actually learning how to do progressive overload and lift heavier and heavier weights was something that I really honed in on and got specific around my goals with in 2024. So at the start of 2024, I was like, right, I am hiring a personal trainer. I'm getting fucking fit. I'm learning how to lift weights. I'm going to go in the gym. I'm not going to be scared, and I'm lifting. And so I did that. And for the past over a year now, I've lifted heavy weights 3 times a week, pretty much, give or take, depending on if I'm traveling or if I was sick or something. But I was really consistent with it. 2 to 3 times a week, I weightlifted for over a year now. And I have to say that it's been so good for my metabolism. It's been so good for maintaining a leaner physique, even though I still eat Reese's cups sometimes and I love ice cream and I eat intuitively and I treat myself when I want to, and I'm still able to maintain a leaner physique. Of course, there's got to be some genetics in there as well. But if I wasn't weightlifting, I know that I wouldn't look as good as I feel right now, because I've been in stages of my life where that wasn't the case, right? When I was in college and I was drinking alcohol and I was eating a bunch of crap and doing whatever, I was gaining weight and I did not look lean. I was very bloated. I was just, I didn't look good. I gained 15 pounds. It wasn't good. So I think that the weightlifting really helps me still be able to enjoy my life, have fun, eat things that I want here and there, but maintain a leaner physique. some people will ask, like, how do you get abs? And I think for me, like, my take is if you just get stronger and you eat better, your abs will start to show. Like, everybody has abs. It's not like you don't have them. They're just underneath a layer of fat. So if you get stronger and you eat better, you'll probably be able to start to see your abs. I also have heard people say that, like, if your abs show or not is genetic. So I don't know. That's interesting to think about and look up. But the point being is, like, I don't do ab exercises. I'm not like doing crunches. I'm not doing like ab bikes. Like I'm not doing oblique dips. I'm not doing any of that shit. I don't do any HIIT workouts. I don't really do any intense cardio. I'll do like more of like the low intensity steady state, like the LISS kind of cardio. So like brisk walking for like a longer period of time, which also is incredible for losing weight, shedding fat. So it's walking and weightlifting are the two things that have really been amazing for me. I think that this year I'm going to try to become a Pilates girly. I'm saying it now so you guys can hold me accountable. I put it on my vision board last year and then I just never ended up doing it because I was really in my like weightlifting era, and that was like taking up the amount of time that I had to dedicate to intentional movement. But I kind of want to become a Pilates girly. So catch me on a reformer machine somewhere near you. So yeah, that's my tip and my perspective around weightlifting. I think it's so good for you. It's so good for aging as well. It's so good for longevity. If you guys haven't listened to the episode with Chalene Johnson, if you scroll back, there's an episode with Chalene Johnson, or if you just type into the search bar within Makeshift Happen podcast and search her name, Chalene Johnson, the episode will come up. But she talks a lot about the benefits of weightlifting and how it helps with anti-aging and longevity and living longer and all of these things. So go check out that episode for more on that. The fifth thing is electrolytes. So this has been another obsession of mine that I recently got into. Last year, I started getting addicted to Element electrolytes, LMNT. If you haven't tried them, they are so, so good. I will die on this hill. The most elite flavor of Element is the raspberry salt. There is no other flavor that they offer that even slightly compares. Fight me over it. The rest of them fucking suck compared to the raspberry. I've been drinking it every day for over a year and I am obsessed. Like I think maybe it's like unhealthy now, how much I love the raspberry salt element, but whatever. Electrolytes are good for you. They help you hydrate more than regular water does. If you don't want to do, but they're kind of pricey. So if you don't want to do something like an element, you can always just do something like Celtic sea salt and lemon in your water. And it basically does the same thing and it's way cheaper. I just really love the taste of an Element raspberry salt electrolyte. Oh my God, chef's kiss. It's in my water bottle right now. Oh, fuck. That is so good, you guys. I need a code. Element. Sponsor the podcast. What are you doing? I'm literally your number one fan. Okay, what number are we on? I can't keep track of this. I think we're on number 7. It's ice rolling the face. Okay, I love doing this. And now listen. You've probably seen the Skinny Confidential ice roller. It's sort of like an influencer staple. It's that like big, chunky, pink ice roller that you see people using on their faces. Now, I wanted that when I wanted to start ice rolling, but I also know myself and I like to test out and try a bunch of new habits, and they don't always land and stick with me. So I was like, right, before I spend $69 on a fucking ice roller for my face, let me just buy a $5 one from Amazon and see if I even like the experience, if I can do it on a daily basis, and if it's going to be worth it for me. So I started with like a really cheap one from Amazon. And then I was like, okay, I could get down with this. It feels so good. It depuffs the face. It's amazing in the morning. And also because I have melasma, it's one of the best things because heat and humidity and sunlight are really bad for melasma, and it can make it basically like produces more of the melanin in your skin, which makes the spots darker. So living in a place like South Florida where it is sunny, humid, and hot as fuck literally all the time, my melasma has gotten so bad living here. And also if you have melasma, you don't want to be going in the sauna a lot because raising your body temperature like that is making your melasma darker. So ice rolling has been a thing for me that I love doing because, and maybe it's placebo, but it makes me feel like I'm doing something good for my melasma, which is like the dark spots. A lot of people get it when they're pregnant. A lot of people will get it like around their top lip and it starts to look kind of like this like darker, like shade of like a mustache almost, but I have a couple of spots on like my inner cheeks, and then I have a big splotch in the middle of my forehead. It gets covered pretty nicely with makeup, so that's good, but I'm trying to not allow it to get any darker. Now, for any of the melasma girlies, if you have this, I'm just going to say it here. I have done peels, I have done lasers, I've done all the things. They don't work. I finally went to a professional who literally looked me in the face and she was like, girl, I've had really bad melasma, so I'm going to tell you the truth. I could sell you a laser treatment right now. I could sell you a chemical peel, but I have to tell you, as long as you live in a place where it's sunny year round, those things are only going to make it get darker. It's going to get better. And then at the end of your treatment, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, it looks so much better. Or maybe it's completely gone. But then within a little bit of time and sun exposure, it's going to come back and it's going to come back darker. So I'm so grateful that she told me the truth about that. And I stopped trying to do chemical peels or lasers or anything to get rid of it. And maybe someday in the future, if I move back to Spain or I live in a place where it's winter and I can be guaranteed to be out of the sun a lot more of the year. She was like, if you can't guarantee that you're going to be out of the sun for 6 months, do not do a peel or a laser. It's going to come back. It's going to be darker. It's going to be worse. So right now, that's what I'm doing. I'm just managing what I have and the way that it is and trying to keep it at bay and not allow it to get any darker. And ice rolling helps with that, but it also helps with like puffiness, and you can kind of like do a little lymphatic drainage with it if you like rub it all down your neck. Obviously, you can do like gua sha or other things in your sort of morning routine when you're doing the ice rolling. But I just really like the ice. It wakes me up. It feels good. And I'm telling myself that it's working. And when I did end up getting the Skinny Confidential one, it is so worth it. I know it's kind of crazy to think about spending $70 on an ice roller, but honestly, I've bought it for my sister-in-law. I've bought it for my mom. Like, I'm obsessed with it. It is so good. And I also love their caffeinated tinted sunscreen. I use that every day. It's so good. And I also have the Pink Balls roller that they sell. So it's another kind of like facial manipulation tool that works almost like it kind of does the same thing that a gua sha might do, but it's these two little pink balls, and you like can, I don't know, you'll have to look it up. It's the Pink Balls roller. Just look it up. I'm not even going to try to explain that right now. Okay, number 8 is CBD for stress and anxiety. So I can be a stressy girly. I can be someone who gets a little bit anxious. When my anxiety comes up for me, I usually feel it in like a pain in my sternum or in my chest. And Jaime always knows when I'm stressed, if I start like rubbing my chest, he's like, oh no, what are you stressed about? And then he'll actually put pressure on my chest or like rub it for me. And that like is something that really soothes me. But the best thing that I've ever found for reducing my stress and anxiety has been Soul CBD. Specifically, this brand I'm obsessed with because they are hands down the best tasting CBD on the market, the best flavors, doesn't taste anything like grass, hemp, weed. It doesn't have any weird flavors. There's no THC in it. It's pure, really good ingredients. Like, they're just an amazing brand and I love them. We've had one of the founders on the show several times, Angie Lee. You guys might know her. So love their CBD. My favorite products from them are the peppermint flavor CBD drops. So if you want like an oil dropper, get the peppermint flavor. It's so, so good. And then if you want a gummy, I would get the raspberry flavor because those ones are the best. Just trust me. I just realized this about myself. Like, some people are out here really taking like Chinese herbs and like these crazy supplements and like stuff that tastes like shit. If something tastes bad, you will not catch me using it. We've bought supplements before that are like hundreds of dollars, and I try it, and the second that it tastes the slightest bit bad, I can't do it. I won't be consistent with it. I will not stick to it. I can't participate. Anything that tastes even the slightest bit bad or has a weird texture, like, I'm out. I'm so fucking far out. I can't do it. So when I give you flavor recommendations and I tell you what the best ones are, just trust me, okay? So peppermint for the oil, raspberry for the gummies, and then I also like their sleepy bedtime cacao drink. It's like a cacao mix, but it also has some CBD in it, ashwagandha, some other things that really help you relax. It also has melatonin in it though, so if you don't want to take melatonin, don't get the sleepy bedtime drink. But that's really nice for like a really deep and dreamy, beautiful, blissful sleep. I so notice the difference when I take that before bed. And I also like their chill de-stress capsules. So those are my favorite things from Soul CBD. If you want to check it out, you can always use my code DAILY if you want to save, and we'll link it in the show notes for you guys if you want to try. Okay, the next thing is eliminating coffee. I have not drank coffee for a long, long time. I don't know if I've told the story about this on the podcast. Maybe someday we'll have to tell the story. So I stopped drinking coffee when I was working with a holistic practitioner, again, to heal my gut and my skin. We just wanted to eliminate caffeine in general for the gut health and hormonal balance benefits. And ever since then, I just haven't really reincorporated it back. So we eliminated coffee for a while, and then I went to decaf, and I was only drinking decaf for a while, which was fine. But then I also got off of decaf, and I wasn't drinking any kind of coffee. I was just drinking matcha or maybe an English breakfast tea or a dandy blend. If you guys haven't heard of dandy blend, also one of my favorite things. It's on my Amazon shop, my Amazon storefront, along with a lot of the things that we've talked about in this episode today and will talk about. So I'll leave a link in the show notes for you guys to my Amazon storefront. You can just go to the wellness section, and then a lot of the things that we've talked about will be there if you want to check any of them out. But Dandy Blend is basically a coffee supplement. It comes from dandelion root, and it's super good for your gut. It's actually really good for you, so you can have multiple cups a day, and you just blend it with milk, and it has a very kind of nutty sort of coffee flavor. It really does taste quite similar to coffee. Obviously, if you're a coffee snob, okay, it's not going to taste exactly fucking like it, but it's very similar. So I was just doing those things, no coffee, and now I can't really go back, because the second that I have coffee, even if it's decaf, I will literally get diarrhea. I'm sorry if that's too much information, but at this point, there's no return. And to be honest, I'm sometimes sad about it, because sometimes you just really want an iced coffee, or you're it's fall time and you're wow, I would really fuck with a pumpkin spice latte right now. I really would love to be able to do that. But at this point, I think it's a point of no return for me. I can't really go back. So at some point, we'll have to tell the story about when Lori and I were in New York, and I basically almost shit my pants in front of Matt Rife, because we met him on a rooftop before he kind of blew up in the comedy space. And we had to run away super fast before we were part of a comedy sketch or a Netflix special about me shitting my pants in a tiny little dress in front of him. So no more coffee for me. I will say, I think in general, it's benefited my health. It's benefited my hormones. It's benefited my gut. And I'm fine now, really, just with my matcha lattes or English breakfast or dandy blend, like I said. Sometimes, of course, I'm sad that I can't have a coffee, but I think overall it's better for my health. And I don't need a coffee to be energized. I don't need a coffee to wake up. I don't need a coffee to start my day. It just feels really good to not be dependent on any sort of substance. Okay, next up is tongue scraping. We've talked about this on the show before. Hot girls scrape their tongues. Point blank, period. That's all I have to say. Hot girls scrape their tongues. This is an Ayurvedic, Chinese medicine thing. Get a copper tongue scraper and scrape your fucking tongue. The amount of toxins and gross, white, filmy shit that comes to the top of your tongue overnight while you're sleeping is appalling. It's appalling. So every morning when you wake up, before you drink any water, before you brush your teeth, before you do literally anything, you need to go to the bathroom, you need to get your copper tongue scraper, and you need to fucking rake that shit off of your tongue and try not to gag and try not to be disgusted with yourself, because you're going to see that you're nasty. It's gross. So we need to get it off, because I'm not going about my day. I'm not swallowing that back down. When you scrape it off and you see it in the sink and it's phlegm and it looks like a literal booger that's come off of your tongue, no. How are we just living like that? And we're kissing people like that have that film on their tongue. It's really, honestly, it's beyond me how more people are not scraping their tongues, but you definitely should be. So if you need a copper tongue scraper, it's linked in my Amazon storefront. Go grab yourself one, or get one anywhere. But I think the copper ones are better for you because they're naturally antimicrobial, antibacterial, something like that. Whereas I don't really want to be using a plastic one, or I don't know. So that's my choice. I think it's more the traditional Ayurveda. They use copper for it. So that's what I've done. Okay, the last wellness practice that I want to bring up is this idea of having faith, of believing in something bigger than yourself. Now, I know some people might not consider this a wellness practice, like, well, that's a spiritual practice, but I think spirituality is wellness, and your belief systems, as we know, dictate your entire mood, your reality, your results, the way that you see the world, your relationships. So I think it's really important. We can't go without talking about my favorite wellness practices without incorporating faith and spirituality into it somehow. So I think that, for me, it's been really important in feeling like my best self, feeling the healthiest I've ever been, feeling fulfilled, feeling alive, feeling like I have self-trust and trust in something greater beyond me, feeling like I'm supported. Like I definitely am a healthy, happier, better version of myself when I am connected to faith and believing in something bigger than myself. Now, I'm going to give some not like hot takes, but just like how I really feel, because I think that's what people are most interested in. And so I just want to say, as the trend is on social media right now, we listen and we don't judge. Okay? We listen and we don't judge. So I believe in God. I also believe that we are influenced by the stars, the moon, the planets, which I often would refer to as the universe as a whole, but you could also say that that is God, since if you believe in God, you likely believe that he is the creator of all things, so interchangeable. I believe in energies and spirits and angels and guides. I think that prayer is a powerful tool as well as meditation. I think loving kindness is incredibly real and so impactful for us to put that energy out into the world. I believe that the thoughts that we put out into the world have the power to heal others, especially when done collectively in large numbers, like when people do really big prayer circles, or if you've seen the giant sort of meditation events that people will host for world peace and things like that, where hundreds and thousands of people come together to meditate on a single intention or to pray together for a single focus. There's real evidence of how that actually impacts the world. So I deeply believe that energy is real, prayer is real, intention is real. I grew up going to a Christian church, but my parents weren't super religious. My grandmother on my dad's side was very, very Christian. We called her the church lady. She loved going to church. She was very Christian. She participated so much in her local church. She would ring the bells at Christmas time and we would go to see her for Christmas service or Easter, whenever she was, up at the front, like in part of the shows. Like she was very, very involved. I remember going to her house and she would always have Bibles there, and she had all these, what are those things called that you stick on the pages, like to mark different parts? I would look at her Bible and there'd be like 85 tabs sticking out the side. It was just like all these different things that she had marked. But it was never like forced on us. I just remember like witnessing and observing that she was a very religious individual. But my parents themselves were, I felt, at least the feeling that I got growing up was like very neutral, non-attached. There would be seasons in our life where my mom would be like, okay, like we really should go to church more. Like, come on, guys, let's go. And we would go through like these seasons where we'd be trying to go every Sunday, and then it would like fall off and we would never go. And then it was just, and it's funny kind of looking back on that, because it's like anything in life. It's a habit where sometimes you're like, okay, I'm going to be really good about working out, and you go for a while and then you fall off and then you're not on the train for a while. I do remember like praying sometimes with my mom before bed when I was little. But again, it wasn't really like a big part of our household. It wasn't really like a big part of our life. We weren't like hardcore religious or anything. Like I don't even really remember knowing anything about like Jesus or the Bible or anything like that really. But I was baptized and I did get confirmed in the Christian church when I was a teenager. And now that I think about it, I don't know why I did that. I guess it was probably something that my mom was like, you should do it, like just in case. And I was just like, okay, whatever. And like one of my friends was doing it at the same time, and the church was right next to our high school. So we would just walk over there after school and do our little class to be able to get confirmed. But yeah, in my like adult life, I wasn't really religious at all. I didn't really like pray at all. I didn't think about God. I didn't really believe in anything. I was just kind of like just neutral, just like nothing, not like atheist. Cause I feel like atheist is like when you're like, you're vehemently against the belief in a higher power. It wasn't that. It was just like, boop, just like nothing in my brain as it relates to like religion, faith, anything. Just didn't really care about it. And then when I studied abroad in Spain, I started to get curious again about religion because there was so much prevalence there of obviously being in a very traditionally Catholic country, and they have some of these beautiful holidays and traditions, and it's such an important part of their life and their culture, not in like a dramatic way, but just like in a symbolic way. Like Easter time in Spain is a really, really moving and so special what they do and how they parade the statue of Jesus and the Mother Mary through the streets. And that was something that Jaime also participated in. He walked in the Easter parade holding the statue of Jesus Christ, walking through the streets for hours with it. And there's like, I don't know, maybe 20 men that have to stand underneath this float that's holding the statue of Jesus because it weighs like, I think it weighs like a ton. Like not like, oh, it weighs a ton. Like, no, it weighs literally like a ton, 1 ton. So heavy because it's made out of all these like really pure solid wood materials with like gold and different things on it. And so they would walk underneath there holding it on their shoulders, and they would have to walk like slowly, one step at a time, one baby step to get all the way through the city and complete the parade. So it was hours of them underneath this float in complete darkness, just sweating their balls off, no music, no nothing, just like the silence and walking through the streets of everyone standing there appreciating the beauty of the parade and like what was happening and just what they were remembering, which was the resurrection of Jesus Christ, obviously if we're talking about Easter. But so there was a lot of things that I saw and witnessed. It just made me want to like open myself back up to the idea of faith. I wouldn't say religion, I would just say faith, because I don't necessarily align with the idea of organized religion at all. But that was probably a cracking open point for me in my faith journey of just to get curious again about those types of things. Nowadays, when I do go to church, I go to a Christian church in Miami, or I'll watch church services online from home. But I also have an angel number tattooed on my body, which people who are like really, really strict Christian are like, they would find that blasphemous. I don't know. So I guess I believe that Jesus was real. But I also think that many parts of the Bible are interpreted storytelling to illustrate his teachings and his legacy, but are not all just like straight up facts. And it's interesting because like I've asked Jaime about this too, being someone that grew up really Catholic, and that's just the only religion that he was ever exposed to in a Roman Catholic country, and going to a school where they teach religion and you're deep in Catholicism. I asked him, like, do you think that everything in the Bible is like cold hard fact? Do you think all that stuff like actually happened? But do you think like the Red Sea like legitimately parted? These are just now, okay, we listen and we don't judge, okay? I'm sorry if this offends you. But we like to have these like deeper conversations. He's like, no, I don't think that actually happened. But we do believe that Jesus was real, and we do believe in his teachings and his legacy and, yeah, him being a savior in some regards. But I just think that we are people that are more open to there being other interpretations, and for there to be a ground for like the gray area, right? Like, I'm not committed to the belief that there is only one God, or that one organized religion in particular is correct and the others are incorrect. And they need us to save them and convince them to be on our side because our religion is the correct one. I think that's wildly pretentious. I could never be someone that really like believes that way. I do believe that we go somewhere when we die, and that souls live on in the spirit realm, and that they also can come back and be reincarnated. I believe in past lives, obviously, as a past life regression therapy practitioner, like, hello. I believe definitely in mediums and mediumship. So yeah, like, obviously my beliefs are all across the board, and you might interpret that in whatever way you're going to, but I did just want to, like, as we talk about faith, be super honest about what that looks like for me, because I know there's a lot of people that struggle in silence about their faith because they're afraid that they're going to get judged, or that they're not doing it the right way, or that they're not far enough left or far enough right, whatever that means for you in terms of like the categories or the boxes that you think that you need to fit in order to feel connected to an idea of faith or to have some sort of spirituality in your life. I think if you need to condemn crystals and tarot cards and to throw them all away in order to feel like you're now good enough in God's eyes, or that you're safe now and no longer being controlled by these negative energies and these demons and the devil that's trying to pull you in with the crystals. I think then if you feel that way, then you probably are still operating from somewhat of a disempowered kind of victim mindset, that leads you to believe that you can't really trust yourself. You can't really trust the wisdom within. That tells me that you probably feel like there's some authority that has the one true answer, and therefore it's kind of pigeonholing you into viewing the world as black and white or all right and all wrong. And that way of thinking might convince you that you can only be fully healed or worthy or saved if you are strictly obedient. And to me, making everything else wrong in order to make yourself right seems very worldly and more like a human thing, right? It seems more like a thing that humans would make up than something that is actually truly holy or spiritual or of divine truth. I saw this quote recently that kind of sums up this conversation beautifully, and it says, "The left thinks that the right is brainwashed. The right thinks that the left is brainwashed. Jews believe Muslims are brainwashed. Muslims believe Jews are brainwashed. Christians believe New Agers are brainwashed. New Agers believe Christians are brainwashed." Actually, over-identifying with any collective ideology or form of groupthink that minimizes the responsibility of discerning for yourself and forming your own personal system of beliefs and values that are open to adjustment upon new experiences and better information makes you brainwashed. And I couldn't agree more with something. Like, I feel like that's the whole summary of basically what I'm trying to say around how I like to live in the gray. I think there's always room for nuance and multiple truths to coexist. And I do believe in a higher power, and I put my faith and trust in something outside of me. But I also never want to lose myself in a belief system and think that someone else has all of the answers, or they have the protocol and the rule book. And if I'm not good enough, then I won't be saved and I won't be loved. Like, I still have to have the trust in myself to adjust based on new information or experiences or things like that, right? And at the end of the day, as I've shared many times before, ultimately my belief is that it doesn't matter what you believe. Like, I don't care what any of you believe listening to this. I think it matters that you believe in something, right? Something that makes you feel more loved, more supported, more able to take risks, more able to be yourself and to achieve big things. So I always kind of question for myself, like, is my current belief system setting me free? Is it making me feel more alive? Is it making me feel more guided? Or is it making me feel more restricted and more judged and more limited? Because that's a really valuable question to ask yourself. Is my current belief system allowing me to live a life that I'm so proud of? Is what I believe helping me to actually live better and live bigger and make bolder moves? Is it allowing me, encouraging me, helping me to be more kind, more generous, more loving, and ultimately more fulfilled? Because that's the most important thing. Okay, and last but not least, I have some honorable mentions. Some wellness practices that are unconventional, but also like facts. Okay. So we're going to speed through these final ones. Some of these can be pricey. They're not as, basic, simple, attainable, easy as the other ones that we've talked about in this episode, but hear me out. Okay. The first one, which is totally free, is not allowing draining or toxic people in your life. Point blank, period. If your relationships suck, then it's going to ripple out into the rest of your life. So it is a wellness practice. It's in your highest interest, if you want to become a healthier version of yourself, to let go of people in your life that are draining you, that are expecting too much from you, that aren't supportive of you, that constantly are stirring up drama, that are intentionally misunderstanding you, that are always getting in arguments, that never see your side, that are narcissistic, that are self-centered, that are whatever, that are unreciprocal friendships. Like, let that shit go. Let it go, and you will fly high. You will get so much healthier. You'll be glowing. You'll look hotter. I promise you. Like, get that shit out of your life. The second thing is making money. Oh my God. Is this a wellness practice? I think so, because making money is good for your mental health. It's good for your wellness. It makes you feel safe, secure, grounded. Making money for me is a wellness practice because ultimately it makes my life better and it funds all this other stuff that I want to do, like having a personal trainer or getting certain supplements or electrolytes or being able to afford a gym membership or whatever it is, right? I think making money is a wellness practice, and we kind of need to make that a little bit less taboo. Next is things like masterminds, retreats, and immersive experiences. These things have been so good for my overall wellness. I've had some of my biggest breakthroughs in terms of spirituality, personal development, mental health, fulfillment, business ideas, all of these things while in masterminds, on retreats, in these kind of immersive experiences or trips. They've been a game changer for me becoming a better, healthier, more fulfilled version of myself. So have to mention them as an honorable mention. Also, along with that, I would say supportive female friendships, wildly underrated. If you have women in your life that are cheering you on, that are lifting you up, and listen, most of the people in my life that are doing that nowadays are people that I met in the online space. They're people that I met through masterminds or that are peers in the coaching space. Having truly like-minded people that you're connected with that are on the same path as you, that value the same things, that are living a similar lifestyle, and they're actually supportive. They want to cheer you on. There's no jealousy. There's no competition. There's none of this bullshit high school friend relationships. They're not mad that you didn't text them back for 5 days because we get it. We're all busy. Wow, it's fucking fine. Those are the types of supportive female friendships that we all need in our life. And if you have those, you're going to be healthier and better off for it, especially mentally, but also just in your heart. It's just a beautiful feeling to be filled up with supportive female friendships. Next is travel, because oh my gosh, that's my love language. It definitely makes me a better person. It definitely heals me. Anytime I need to be re-inspired or I just want to fix my life, I just go on a trip like that. Honestly, for me, and maybe it's because I'm a Sagittarius, but traveling solves my problems, I just have to say. So that's a wellness hack. And lastly is getting ready in the morning, getting ready every day. I don't know if you guys have heard of this. It's the 2/3 rule where you do 2 out of 3 things. So for girls, you have hair, makeup, outfit. You make a goal to do 2 out of those 3 things every day or as many days as possible. Obviously, given your lifestyle or whatever's going on in your life. If you're in a season of newborn or brand new baby or pregnant or whatever, nuance, okay? But if you're someone who's wanting to show up more, to be more confident, to feel more yourself or be more alive, feel like that bitch, have just more of just an energy for your day, maybe you want to try the 2/3 rule. Maybe you want to get ready more. Maybe you want to put a little bit more effort in. Maybe you want to get a couple of cute tops for yourself so that you feel you could just put it on with leggings or jeans or any base that you have. But a cute top honestly will make it look like you have a whole cute outfit on. And then just do your hair, do your makeup. It honestly makes you feel so good. You're going to be more likely to show up, to make content, to feel alive in your business, to want a podcast, to put yourself out there, to when you go out in the world, you're going to want to lift your eyes up and look at people and have conversations. You won't have your headphones in and your eyes down and avoiding everyone's gaze because oh, don't look at me. I look like shit. I look so bad today. Don't do that to yourself. You want to show up in the world with an energy of openness and confidence if you want to receive more back. So I think that's a really, really great hack for that. Okay, that wraps us up today for 11 plus my honorable mentions of my top realistic wellness practices without meditation, without long morning routines, without crazy biohacks. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please let me know. Leave a comment down below on Spotify if you're listening there or on YouTube. If you like video podcasts, make sure that you go and follow our YouTube at _Samantha Daily. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon. If you know someone in your life who would enjoy this episode, please copy the link, send it to them in a message, let them know you were thinking of them. It helps so much support the show. And you kill 2 birds with 1 stone because you get to let a friend know that you were thinking of them, send them a nice message with a juicy podcast for them to dive into, and you get to support us at Make Shift Happen. We love you guys so much, and we'll talk to you next week. Oh, and don't forget, I will link everything in the show notes below if you guys want to check out any of my favorite products on my Amazon storefront or use my code DAILY for the CBD products. Okay, thanks. Bye.